Hello, I'm Ollie. This is Criminolly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today I'm doing a tag video. I'm going to do the postscript tag. So I've been thinking about doing an end of year wrap up video anyway. I've seen a couple of people do this tag, and it seemed like a really good way of summarising the year. I think it's got 10 different questions that kind of talk about my reading experiences during the year. So the tag, I believe, was created by Memento Mori, and the people I've seen doing it are Shelley Swearingen and Mindy at Mindy's Book Journey. So I'll leave links to all of those channels in the comments for this. Okay, so first question is, what's the longest book you've read this year? And what's the book that took you longest to finish? So the longest book I've read this year is one I've only just read, so it's Swan by Robert R. McCammon, which is a big post-apocalyptic kind of fantasy. It's a lot like The Stand in many ways, but I think I actually prefer it to The Stand. So that was very good. it's from the 80s, I think. The book that took me longest to finish was, I've got two books listed here. So I read the Coming of Conan the Cimmerian by Robert E. Howard, which is a collection of his Conan short stories. That took me, I think, about 25 days to read, but I wasn't reading it solidly. I would read a story, then read something else, then read another story, then read something else. So I don't know if that really counts. The book that took me, I think, longest to read that I read all the way through was A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara, which took me 5 days to read. And is a fantastic book if you haven't read it. Okay, question 2. What's a book you read this year that was outside of your comfort zone? So I did think about this. I'm going to go with A Little Life because it's an amazing book that everyone should read. It's definitely outside my comfort zone in that it's a big book. It's like 700 pages, and it's very, very emotional. And a lot of the stuff I read, crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing, is not emotional in the way that A Little Life is. It really is. It's a real emotional journey of a book. It's a book that's very much character-led rather than plot-led. It's just wonderful, and you should definitely read it, but make sure you've got a big box of tissues next to you when you do. How many books, so question 3, how many books did you reread this year? So 18. So I'm not normally someone who rereads books that much, or I didn't consider myself to be anyway, but 18 sounds like quite a big number to me. I haven't listed them all, but that's kind of made up of a few Ed McBain books from the 87th Precinct series, the first 3 of John Norman's Gore novels, which I had read before, and then a few things from, kind of horror books and things like that I read a long time ago, that I read kind of 25, 30 years ago. So a couple of Richard Lehman books, Let's Go Play at the Adams, which I'll talk about again a bit later. What else? Oh, a couple of Michael Slade books, so Headhunter and Ghoul were ones that I'd read before. So yeah, I've actually reread quite a lot this year. What's your favourite reread of the year? I think that would be Let's Go Play at the Adams. I think when I first read it in my teens, I was much too young to read it and really appreciate it. I've done a video on this book and Jack Ketchum's The Girl Next Door, which I'll try and remember to put a link up to. But it's just it's a phenomenal book, incredibly disturbing. Sorry, I didn't say who it was by, did I? It's by Mendal Johnson. So yeah, an incredibly bleak and disturbing book about some kids who kidnap their babysitter. But yeah, a fantastic book. Okay, question 5. A book you read for the first time that you're looking forward to rereading in the future. I think this would be The Hustler by Walter Tevis, which is just a brilliant book. So quite short, written in the 50s, about a guy who is a hustler in pool halls. So plays pool for money. And it's about his kind of journey from being very successful to losing everything to building himself up again. It's just an absolutely fantastic book. Thoroughly recommended. Next one then, so question 6, favourite single short story or novella that you read this year? So I had a good think about this, and I was thinking I hadn't read any short story collections apart from the Conan one. But then I remembered earlier in the year I read a collection called Things Get Dark, or When Things Get Dark, edited by Ellen Datlow, which is a collection of stories that kind of pay homage to Shirley Jackson. And that was a really, really good collection. I think my favourite story in that collection was one called Take Me, I'm Free, by Joyce Carol Oates, which was a very short but really quite disturbing and affecting story about child abuse, which I thought was fantastic. Okay, question 7, mass appeal, a book that you liked and would recommend to a wide variety of readers. So I'm going to go with one that maybe people wouldn't think that they would like, which is The Case Against Satan by Ray Russell. So this is a 60s horror novel about demonic possession, or is it? Because you can read it as being about possession, or you can read it as being about religion and kind of mass hysteria. So it's never clear all the way through the book whether the girl in question, who's kind of central to the book, who people think has been possessed by the devil, has actually been possessed. It's a very, very good book, a precursor to The Exorcist, and I think better than The Exorcist. So I think that despite being a horror story, is a book with broad appeal because it's got a very even-handed approach to the subject matter. Next question, specialised appeal, a book you liked but would be hesitant to recommend to just anyone. So I'm going to go with Throat Sprockets by Tim Lucas, which I did a video on fairly early on in the life of this channel, which is just a fantastic kind of vampire novel from, I think, the early 90s, about a guy who gets obsessed with this film that he sees in this weird rundown adult movie theatre, which is just kind of close-ups of women's throats. A really, really great book about kind of obsession and also about cinema. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic book, and if you like your horror a bit weird, I definitely recommend it. Next question then, question 9. So reflect on your year as a bookish content creator. So it's been quite a year, I think. So in terms of books I've read, so I've read 182 books so far this year, and I expect to finish at least one more by the end of the year. And I've managed to read across all of the genres that I really like. So I've probably read more pulp stuff this year than in any previous year, and I've really, really enjoyed that. But also enjoyed reading some, kind of older horror as well as new horror by independent creators. So yeah, definitely enjoyed that, and read some great crime stuff this year as well. So finished my full read through of the 87th Precinct series by Ed McBain, which I really, really enjoyed. So yeah, that was good. And then I've also managed to read a bit more widely as well. So those, crime pulp horror have definitely been my focuses this year. But I have read things like A Little Life as well. So I've managed to read, some literary fiction and quite a bit of historical fiction this year as well, actually, as well as the stuff that's, definitely within my comfort zone. And then in terms of, being a content creator, so there's been probably 3 things this year I'm really proud of. So firstly, I was part of the team that put together a body horror short story anthology, Twisted Anatomy, which you can find on Amazon. I will put a link to it in the description for this video. So it's a collection of short stories by a variety of writers, some of whom you will have heard of, some of whom you probably won't have. But I think a very good, solid collection of body horror short stories. Really enjoyed the process of editing it. So, getting submissions in and reviewing them with the team that I was part of that worked on it. And yeah, it's been available since February on Amazon, so you can get it on Kindle. And yeah, that was something I'm really proud of being part of. Also, been doing a lot of work in the kind of last couple of months in preparation for the launch of a new website, Leviathan Libraries, which I'm helping out with, which goes live on 2nd of January. So this will be a review website covering, all sorts of genres, books, video games and movies. So that's been, really interesting and fun, and hopefully people will like that when that goes live on the 2nd of Jan. I've got a few reviews I've written for that already, which will be going up soon. And then also, obviously, I set up this channel. So if you told me at the beginning of the year I was going to have a YouTube channel, I would have laughed. It definitely feels like something that's outside of my comfort zone. You know, talking is something that's outside of my comfort zone. So so doing a YouTube channel definitely felt like a strange thing to do. But as I've said in other videos, it started out as kind of a bet with my son to see who could get the most subscribers, and you know, blown away by the number of people that have subscribed and are watching me babble away about books. So yeah, I think, you know, those three things as a content creator, I'm really pleased with. So it's felt like a really good year for me from that perspective. Plus I've got a lot of reading done as well. Last question then, question 10 is to tag some fellow bookish content creators. So I'm going to do what other people have done. I'm not actually going to tag anyone, given that this feels like a good wrap-up one for the end of the year, and it's the 30th of December. Feels a bit unfair to tag people and make them feel obliged to do it in the next couple of days, but I'll put an open invitation out. If you watch this and you know, feel like it's something you'd like to do, then go for it. I think it's a really good way of summarising the year. Right, that's me done. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you found that interesting, and I will speak to you again soon. Cheerio.